I'm Michael Connelly. I'm here in Los Angeles for a screening of The Lincoln Lawyer. But before I get to that, I'm going to take you on a tour of the city to where Mickey Haller was born. It's a place that's been very inspirational and responsible for me becoming a writer. It's all kind of started for me and ends for me here in Los Angeles. My first writing job was in Fort Lauderdale, the town I kind of grew up in, at the Fort Lauderdale paper. And that's where I was on the cop beat, and for a while I was on the court beat. In the world of journalism, you're always trying to climb the ladder. And so I reached a point in Fort Lauderdale where I felt like I was a big fish in a small pond. So I started looking around. If I had ranked my choices, Los Angeles would have been #1 because the movies that have inspired me were set here in Los Angeles. And also the writers, Joseph Wambaugh, Raymond Chandler, Ross McDonald, the big three influences on me all wrote about Southern California. This is where I would hope that I'd end up, and I got lucky. The first newspaper editor to return my efforts to make contact was a Los Angeles Times editor. We're heading towards the San Fernando Valley, the sprawling northern end of the city. More specifically to Van Nuys, to the Van Nuys Courthouse, where most of the courtroom action of the Lincoln Lawyer takes place. We're going to take Wilshire West to the 405. We'll go north and be fully immersed in the Los Angeles freeway system. The Lincoln Lawyer has a tremendous number of scenes set in cars. I think putting Mickey Haller in a car gave the character a certain amount of freedom and knowledge about this place. And it also gives, Mickey the ability to contemplate this place and his place in it. One of the duties I have when writing these stories is to deliver Los Angeles to the reader. The reality is most of those readers have never been here. And so you want to give them a distinct flavor of what life in Los Angeles is like. And nothing does it better than a car. The San Fernando Valley is the northern part of the city of Los Angeles. It's got more than 1 million people living here. Big, sprawling place. This is the Van Nuys Civic Center, and it's at the heart of the Lincoln Lawyer story. It's also very central to my own experiences. Back when I was a journalist, I worked for 2 years in an office in this building. It was the media office, and I covered trials in these two courthouses. This is a crossing of all parts of the criminal justice system. Way over here to the right, we have the LAPD Van Nuys Division, jails on the top. That's where Mickey Haller meets Louis Roulet for the first time. And from the windows of the jail, you can see all the way down this corridor to Van Nuys Boulevard, where all the bail bond shops are. And Val Valenzuela had his bail bond shop. Liberty Bail Bonds is down there with a neon sign with his phone number. There's no doubt in the criminal justice system that the underdog is the accused, and by virtue of that, the defense attorney is the underdog. And so my using this complex underscored that, because we have these immense buildings that are the physical embodiment of the power and the might of the state. And so Mickey Haller walks into this plaza. We got courthouse, police station, city hall. Over here is the federal building. And this is what Mickey Haller is up against. He's up against all this. In this country, only 5% of people arrested ever go to trial, and the prosecution wins 75% of their cases. So the chances of getting someone a not guilty verdict are immensely long. And I think this is a good way of physically hammering that home in a story. My appreciation for defense attorneys a lot in life certainly grew when I saw it carried out firsthand as a reporter who was floating around courtrooms and so forth and getting to know some of these people. I saw people that were struggling to keep their ideals intact. It's one thing to say everybody deserves the best defense possible no matter what they did, and then there's a reality of you're sitting at a table next to somebody who killed a child or raped a child. I mean, it's very hard to do, and so it puts your ideals to test, and so I think that's admirable when someone can still do that, and that's what drew me to the idea of one day wanting to write about a defense attorney.
I have no more questions, Your Honor.
When I was researching The Lincoln Lawyer, I was searching for the story, but I had the sense of who this character would be, this guy who knew all the angles and was very confident in that, but that he was going to have something happen to him that would send him on this path of seeking redemption, of trying to make something right. And one night I was with about 5 lawyers in a hangout where lawyers go after work. And I asked about how many of them, how often did they actually really have an innocent client? And the answer was very rarely. And then one of the lawyers piped up and said, there's no client as scary as an innocent client. When that lawyer said that, I had to grab a cocktail napkin and write that line down exactly as he said it, because I knew in the moment he said it that I suddenly had found the center point of my story. I never had the lightning bolt hit me and says, oh, I have to be a writer. A couple different things happened to me that kind of led me to the path. Probably the key one, though, was seeing the film The Long Goodbye, Robert Altman's take on the Raymond Chandler novel when I was 19 years old, and that led me to read the books. And I read all of Chandler's books in about a week, and that was when I started really feeling like, you know, I want to try to do this at some point. So this is the High Tower. It's on the historic registry. It's a conglomeration of different apartments of different styles, all joined by that central tower, which is an elevator. And in The Long Goodbye, that apartment with the umbrella is where Marlowe lived. I had that apartment for about 3 years. Always found it inspirational to be writing in the place where good old Philip Marlowe had lived. Like many of my characters, I wanted Mickey Haller to kind of commune with his city. I wanted him to have a house where he could look out on the city and contemplate its good and bad things. And so I picked this neighborhood. It happened to be a house I lived in at one point in my life. And what was most important is it had a deck, but it just had a staggering view of the city. To be a writer, to be a novelist, you gotta kind of be a natural-born introvert. You gotta be comfortable working by yourself. And that lasts for months at a time. And then you turn in a book, it gets edited, it comes out, it's in stores, and you suddenly go from being this solo introvert to being a public figure, and you go out on the road, and you're in bookstores, and you're on TV shows and things like that, and you're out there promoting books. I'm pretty much, you know, a road warrior. I've published, I think, 23 books. I've probably been on 20 book tours. So there's a component of my life that is always out there on the road. All writers have a higher game in mind. Yeah, my books are crime novels or puzzles, entertainments. But hopefully there's also a little bit of a reflection of the world, social reflection. Meeting people who are fans of your work, or more than that, who are touched by your work, who see a little bit of what you're trying to do. Maybe they ask a few questions. When you're out there on the road, you kind of find out whether that's getting through. We're high above Hollywood. You hear that sound, the hissing? That's the background of all of LA, the ubiquitous freeway, Hollywood freeway cutting through Hollywood, heading towards downtown. This is a place I used to come a lot for inspiration when I was writing about this city. Los Angeles is a perfect place for a writer because it's physical contradictions. Contradictions where you find drama. And here is a place where the geography itself is a contradiction. Los Angeles is a destination city. It's just packed with people who came here to find something they couldn't find where they were from. And I'm one of those people. I didn't even set foot in Los Angeles, so I was 30 years old. And at that time, I had written 2 novels that were in a drawer somewhere because they weren't good enough. And I was looking for what would make my writing good enough. And so I changed my life. I moved from Florida 3,000 miles out here. And within a year of moving here, I was writing what would become my first published novel. So is it something in the air, something in the water? I don't really know. But there's something about this place and its contradictions and its beauty that put it all together for me.